Hi everyone, welcome to another update on this gloriously sunny Saturday afternoon. I'm just rearranging my screen a little bit. Anyone spot the new lobby? I've been giving my Cybertherapy Space VR a bit of a makeover. I think there'll be lots of people checking in and looking at it over the next month or so, so it was time to give it a bit of a spruce up, as you do. And so because it's now looking different, it was only fair that my background looks different so that I'm reflecting that. Anyway, enough of me, what I'm doing. We're here for an update, and thank you once again for all of your feedback and for using your type forms really well this week. I've had loads of really good feedback, just looking at your reflections and what's impacted you this week, as well as the learning and what I can learn from that and how I can support you. So brilliant, well done. Keep it up, keep it going. It's a great way of staying in touch with me and getting more support. And I've had a long think about a couple of the issues that have come up, a couple of the areas that would be really interesting, I think really valuable to go through today. So let's get started. So you should be able to see this week's update. Yes, I have changed the date, 7th of May. I'm losing track of time. And so what we're going to be looking at today is working with 2D and 3D images, of course, but where do we get them from? That's been something that's a bit of a hot topic this week for some of you. Yes, where do we get them from, and how do we sort of work with them? And so we're going to be looking at that. I know some of you are still getting some practice clients when you're sort of moving over from face-to-face to online work and just getting people who you can practice with. That's still very much an issue, and how you can prepare for them before they come on board, or before you get clients, before you get the people who are paying you as referrals. How do we prepare for them? So I know some of you are working on sort of onboarding assessments. How do we know we've got the right clients? But again, it's great to sort of see and hear about that in your feedback. I'll be putting on an extra play day on Tuesday at 7:30, and I'm going to fill you in about that later on. I don't put those on very often, so yeah, it's a chance to grab that. I think I'm just going to have this for those who are on the app at the moment and doing the training. In future, I'll probably open it up to other cyber creative graduates, but for now it's just us who are on the app. So anyway, I'll go over that a bit later. I had mentioned a couple of times this week in different trainings about using Mural, and about how I've managed to blag myself a free version of the full-blown thing without having to pay for it. So I wanted to, I said that I was going to dig out the wording for that that I used, and I can't find the actual email that I sent to them, but what I did find is the page on Mural that tells you about how to be eligible for the Mural Consultant Network. That's what you need to join. And so on this update, there's just a screenshot of that. You can have a look at that. I'm pretty sure I focused on the fact that I work with external clients and that I do agile coaching, words to that effect. But to say, it's well worth doing. And there is a link to that particular page where you can, hit a button and apply for that. So I thought that'd be really useful. Some of you've mentioned that this week. Well, I've certainly mentioned it. I'm going to look a little bit about choosing and using apps and subscriptions. I'm a firm believer, don't pay for something if you can get it free. And that means reaching out, being in contact with providers, with companies, building up a relationship with them, asking. Sometimes they will say no, but when they say yes, you've got something that's really valuable, and you can demonstrate how you're going to use it and be valuable too. So well worth doing. And this sort of working online, it does take a lot more collaboration, a lot more networking, building relationships. So be prepared to reach out to companies. So this is obviously one of the ones where I've been successful, and I say it works for me. If you're thinking of using an interactive whiteboard of any sort, whether it's Mural or another one, yeah, check it out. If you can get a free version, then do. But I'm talking a little bit later about getting to know the apps that we use and doing an acid test. There is such a temptation, this sort of fear of missing out thing, that you see something amazing, you think, I've just got to have that. What's the acid test that we use? I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But the play days that I'm offering, is an opportunity to get to know the app, which will help you to do the acid test. So it's not just about getting together and having fun. It's really about our responsibility to do the research, get to know the app as well as you can, and then you're able to answer those acid test questions of whether it's going to work for your clients and your practice. That's the head that we have to have on at the moment. So in what I'm offering this week, it really is an opportunity to do just that, get to know the app. But I'm going to talk about the acid test a bit later. Right, so covering. I'm going to use my fancy outline this week. Again, another way of being able to organise information. And one of the questions, coming back to something that's a bit of a hot topic, where do we get in images that we can use online with our clients? And I thought long and hard about this. I didn't want to just say yes or no. I really wanted to think about it, to reflect on it, and to give you a really good role model of what I think will work for you as well. And what I came back to is my framework. And I bang on about frameworks so much, but I think they are in situations where you're struggling to find an answer, yes or no, or which direction, your framework is there to support you. And for me, in answer to that question of, where do we get images from, or which sort of library source, and do we just buy it in or not, or what do we do? I went back to the framework, things that are that I put real value in as cyber creatives under this sort of training and the training that I deliver, my values, my framework. And I'm very much a believer in connectivism. This particular way of learning is based on a theory called connectivism. And you'll find a little bit of an introduction to that concept on the app itself. I do believe I put it in the Cyber Creative journal, not the Cyber Creative Guide, sorry, don't write journals, Cyber Creative Guide, talking about what is connectivism. It's very much a different way of learning. It's not the same way that, and I don't want to be ageist here, but I think trainees of a certain age, myself included, we're used to learning things a certain way, where everything's put there for you and you follow the steps and you learn it all. And it can be really, really tricky, really difficult getting into a mindset where you're having to go to different data sources. You're not holding everything in your mind, you're holding it external to you, and you go there to get what you need. And that's the learning bit of it. It's knowing where to find the information that meets what you need to do. So back to the question. Are we expecting to have one source of all of our images and all of the models and everything that we're using, pretty much like the therapy kits that we used to drag from school to school or from place to place, or to have our room that contained everything that we would need? Working online needs a different approach, because there are so many resources and so much that we could draw from. And do we need to hold them all ourselves in our library, or do we need to know where to find those things? Plus, our clients will be bringing their own images and models and want to source or go to the same sources that we go to. How do we manage that? Who controls that? This learning is an experience, this training is an experience of how we manage that. There are different sources of information. There's different guides and type forms and links and documents. And the experience on the interactive whiteboard, our mural templates, is an example of this is where to go to find all of the links and the learning that we've got, or they'll be on the app. Or it's just a way of managing an external data source. So maybe in our reflecting, we need to sort of think about how we manage that. That's going to be a really good process to go through. But also, it's a matter of going back to your framework. Now, you might decide in your practices that you don't particularly want this value. I think it's a really good value to have, and it's certainly underpinning this training. but what is going to be in your framework? You might not want to focus on this, on connectivism, but it's certainly mine. And so I will always come back to that underpinning the answer that I give you, which is different data sources. We need to learn how to manage that. And I'm going to go on in the next section just to give you some ideas of data sources for images and models when you're working online. Oh, that sounded like a long answer to a short question. I do apologise. But yeah, I'm a firm believer in working with your frameworks. So on this template, on this mural, I must stop calling them templates because it isn't a template, it's a mural wallpaper. So I'm again talking about what happens to our clients in the sessions, what happens when they want to go onto the Google search, how do you manage that, how do you control that? So what happens in your sessions, in your interventions to do with images? How are you going to plan for that? Maybe having a library is a really good, safe, controlled way of managing those images. And I've certainly, when I started working online, I certainly had an image library that I put together because I wanted to have that level of control. But I also recognised that it was really limiting what I could work with in the sessions. And maybe I needed to get better at sourcing different images, at creating, again, that's a real value of cyber creativity, creating those images. Do I have to own them? Do I have to keep them in a library? Really just made me have to think about how I was managing them. It wasn't a solution to say, right, it's all in the library. I don't use the library that I created very much in my sessions now. I tend to use the skills that we've learned or that we're learning to be able to create those images, take the backgrounds off, use them. I do save them, but I don't use them in the same way as an image library. Lots of thinking in there, but let's come back to it in your sessions if that's something you want to explore more. But I really wanted to drive home this idea of connectivism. It's a very different way of learning, of managing, and it's very much in line with working online. It takes us away from that face-to-face kind of way of working and thinking and managing our resources, and it's very much about that. If you want to look up a little bit about what connectivism is, I mean, I just Googled it a little bit. There are various sources, but there's one that I put on this wallpaper about a new learning theory, about how we combine thoughts and theories and general information, about how we use the technology. And it's not always about libraries. So yes, just thought I'd put that out there. Right. Moving on. I'm just making sure that I've covered everything that I wanted to on there. Yes, there we go. Right. So moving on. Some more learning. I guess tied into that whole sort of data sources thing, I wanted to give you some ideas and some tips on how you can develop your learning this week, because it is about your learning journey as well. And if you'd really like a great source of images that I use quite a lot is Canva. The Pro version license, I like it and use it because I like to just be able to select whatever images I choose. I don't want to have to be told, oh, you haven't got a pro license, so you can't have that image if I set my heart on it. But the free license is absolutely amazing as well. So I'm a little bit obsessive about images, so I don't mind paying for a certain source of images and things like on a place like Canva, but you can get a lot of mileage from their free version. So jump on, get yourself a Canva account free of charge, check it out. You have got a whole ton of images, videos, backgrounds, you name it, that you can use on Canva. And because you have an account with them, well, I certainly use my account with them like this, and say, well, if I've got an account with you and I've got access to these images, I can use them wherever I want to. Quick screenshot, take that image somewhere else. If you want to use it outside of Canva, I think you can use it like that. I certainly do. I don't see anything in the terms and conditions that says you can't, particularly because I'm paying for a pro account. But either way, you've got an account with them, use the images. We focus on the skills for a reason, to learn how to take backgrounds off and to be able to do screenshots and create what you need to use. But Canva is a great source of lots of images and very versatile. You can do lots of things just in that app without having to take it very far. But if you do need to take it to another place, maybe a PowerPoint or onto the mural or a whiteboard or something you're using, cut and paste it from the screen, take it, use it. Another great source of an image library that I use is Unsplash. They've just got thousands of images that are royalty free. That's the thing about it. They're free, you can download them, you can use them. Again, wonderful source. I use those a lot for my presentations. So different type of images, but again, you search for them, but think very carefully about your clients. And again, I'll come back to that again, the acid test at the end. Think about your clients, the sorts of images that will be appropriate and safe and good to use in the sessions with them. It's going to be different for children than it will be for adolescents and adults. Or if you want to use graphics as opposed to photographs, again, Canva is your place for that. So think very much about your clients and the sorts of interventions you're putting together and to what you will need. So again, knowing where to find stuff in Canva or Unsplash, does that become more important? So I think it's more important than having a set sort of library, but we need to find something that works for you. That's the point. So the other value, oops, that wasn't supposed to move. The other value that I really, really want to drive home is that idea of being creative. So that's my little sort of light bulb. And be prepared to approach. If you see a great source of images or a great source of something that you'd like to use and it's not directly set up for you to use it in your therapy, or you don't want to particularly pay for a whole account, then maybe reach out to the company and ask them if you can use some images of theirs, which is something that I did with a company called HeroForge. HeroForge provide, see if I can go into it. Oh, there we go. This is HeroForge. They do custom 3D models. You create them, and it's great fun. Just sort of choosing and selecting all sorts of different poses and things. They are just they're designed for people who have sort of tabletop adventures and you name it, or just want to design their own miniatures. Great fun. However, I don't want to buy a load of miniatures, and I don't want to pay for them to create them into a 3D miniature for me. But I do love the idea of creating a character in this sort of way, particularly sort of adolescents. Great fun. I reached out to HeroForge and said, could I use images of what I create, because that's how I work, and that will be really valuable to me. I don't work with actual objects. You know, I could do a 3D print of it and have it in my hands, but I don't work with objects like that anymore. I work with images. Can I use that? Sure, they said. Job done. So I'm now able to go into this website and to create images, and there is a download feature or a screenshot feature. Can I find it now? Here we go. Screenshot. And I can use that in my work. Simple. Again, I don't have to have a library of all of those. I can go into HeroForge whenever I want to. And my client can share the screen, create what it is they want. We do a screenshot and we use the tool. So again, it's thinking creatively about things. So again, if you're up for reaching out to a couple of companies, if you see a great source of things that you like, you don't have to own it. Go ask. You don't know if you don't get if you don't ask. Anyway, moving on. So the other source that we talk about so I've got a very itchy nose. The other thing that we talk about mainly in the Cyber Cross Reality Challenge is about creating and using 3D models. So again, in Cyber Confidence, we talk about using images. but we move on to more sort of 3D models and things inside the Cross Reality Challenge. Again, the same applies. We begin by focusing on how to create and to build these objects, 3D objects, using very simple, fun techniques, say things in co-spaces, and how we go about doing that. But we also move on to using things like Tinkercad to create your own 3D objects. But if it is that you want to have a library of 3D models, and don't always have to pay for those, I use one or two libraries. What do I use here? This one that I put on is Turbo Squid, I think. Yes, that's Turbo Squid. But there are loads out there. Again, I don't pay for stuff unless I absolutely have to. There's lots of all the models that you see that I've used in demos and stuff, things that I think maybe only one or two I've ever paid for, a couple of dollars. That's it. Otherwise, they're free models, and getting the skills to be able to work with them is very much why we sort of start with that upfront, because if you can create it, then you're not having to pay for it, and you have more control over it as well. You know that you've not had to go onto a website that's going to be tracking you with all sorts of cookies and you name it, in purchase or in-app purchases or adverts, and there's quite often a hidden cost to buying things in, to sort of using things ready-made, particularly online. So if you can create them, you've got more control over them, and you know what's coming into your therapy space. So I always advise trainees, my graduates, to create where you can. That's why we start with the creative skills. But if you do want to sort of buy things in, and you think it's appropriate for your clients, and you've done your research, it's a safe source of either images or models, then yeah, go for it. Do the thinking, be creative, have fun, and don't pay for anything unless you really need to. So, oops, top tips. Where do we go from here? Again, something that is, I know, really familiar to many of you, this little Venn diagram, but I do think it is the acid test of how to get past the, oh, let's do this, it's amazing, look at this app. You get the FOMO, the fear of missing out, kicks in. You think, I simply must have that. This for me is my acid test, and I will certainly advise you to use it for every choice and for every client as a tool. Does this work for my clients? What age are they? Am I dealing with an adolescent? Am I dealing with a child? Am I dealing with an adult? Am I dealing with a professional as opposed to a family member? Who is my client? Is this app or is this tool going to work for them and meet their needs? Some of the apps that I sort of talk about are only recommended for adolescents because of, adolescents and adults, say ProReal, for example, because of the thinking capacity that's needed to be able to work with that particular app and get the most from it. I wouldn't recommend using it with clients under the age of 11, 12, but there are creative ways of still being able to use avatars and images and things. I must send out my PowerPoint version of ProReal, or some of the scenes anyway, so that's something for me to remember. But back to the acid test, really focusing on, is this going to work for my client? Is this going to be something they can use on their device as well as mine? How secure is it? What sort of support does this company who's selling me this subscription or this app, what sort of support do they provide? If it all goes pop and you can't connect, who can you email? Who's going to help and support you with the technical side of things, as well as, you know, updates and developments on it? And do they regularly update it? Is this going to work? It has to be, you have to have an acid test, otherwise you'll be buying everything under the sun. It is far more complex than face-to-face work, I believe, because there are literally thousands of choices out there. And do you want to have everything? Do you need to have everything? Can you afford everything? Not many of us can. That's why having your framework, knowing what your values are, knowing what kind of therapist you want to be, so back to your profile, also ties in to which clients you can work with, and is this tool going to work with them? make your decisions client-led, not tech-driven. So keep that in mind. So when you're thinking about your game changer challenge and the interventions that you're designing, again, keep this diagram in mind as well, and make your goals very smart. That thinking around, I'm going to use this app this week, I'm going to learn how to use it with this client group, making it very specific so that you're absolutely committing to something very focused, because that would be a very different goal from, say, I want to learn how to use ProReal because I'm going to use it with adolescents, as opposed to I'm going to learn how to use Mural to learn so that I can use it with a child or a client aged 6. Very, very different goals, but it just shows me that you're doing that thinking, that you're being very focused, crystal clear, spot on about what you're doing and why you're committing to it, and what I need to do to support you. So it'd be great to see some of this sort of language coming into your goals, into your thinking as to what it is you're delivering. Make it razor sharp so that you go through that process of knowing why you've chosen what you're doing, what it is you want to focus on, and what the outcome's going to be for you. So finally, a little bit more information about the extra play day this Tuesday. It's at 7:30. I will send out a link for that, a Zoom link for that. So do join me. I'm not expecting masses. I think there's only a couple of you on the app at the moment, so it may just be sort of the 3 of us, who knows. But either way, and it is, as I said before, it's an opportunity to get to know these particular apps which have come up in our sessions over this last week or so. ProReal, it's a chance to get to use that. I will send you a link to a world once we get online together, so don't worry about whether you've got a sort of test license for that. You won't need to use it. I will create a world and send you a link, and again it will demonstrate how you can use this with your clients. Everything that we do and test and play with gives you an idea of what you need to do in a session if you're using this particular app and thing. So it's really valuable learning. So you'll see what I do to set up a world and send you a link straight away, and how you could do that in a session if you were to use ProReal. So again, it's getting to know, it's all those knotty, knobbly things. It's not even the fun, exciting bit of it. It is the, how do I use this? What does it feel like? Will that be right for my clients? So join me on Tuesday at 7:30 if you want to have a play with ProReal. We'll spend half an hour on each. So in half an hour play with ProReal and half an hour on Mural. Again, we use this all the time for our sessions, so I know you're familiar with getting those emails that invite you to the Mural. And again, it gives you an idea of thinking, how easily could I do that with a client? I know some of my teenage clients, they don't look at emails, and so inviting them via email to a Mural app, wallpaper, it just wouldn't work. I need to find a way of being able to share that, and so you have to be specific, thinking, how am I going to do this? Would this work with children as well as it would work with, say, executives or sort of, anyway, you do the thinking. I've blagged on enough about that, but again, it's an opportunity to sit and work out all those little funky bits that make or break a session, or make it easy or for your clients and for you to facilitate using these things, because that's what you want to get to. It's not just about, you know, which tool and things are best. It's about you being confident to say, yes, I could do that. I want to do that this week for my client, and here's an opportunity to have a play and to sort some of that out. So 7:30, half an hour on each, so it will be no more than an hour, and I will send out Zoom links, and if you can make it, it'll be lovely to see you. If not, I'm sure we will have plenty of time, or some time, in our next Cyber Creative hubs, so I'll look forward to seeing you then. I will post up a link to this particular update, and this the live video will be on the app as well. So I hope it will be useful and give you some food for thought. And do keep it coming with your type forms, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now. Bye.